Hi y'all, this is Mitch doing another video for you. Not sure how to be, but I want to warn you right now, it's kind of hot as I'm recording this, so every once in a while if I go to scratch my head or scratch under my arms, I'm sorry for the motion, but geez, it's hot and I'm kind of sweaty. And these lights are hot as well. So anyway, as you see above, I've listed a whole lot of things that I thought on June 12th that were somewhat important things, at least to me in history. There's a whole litany of other stuff. But I thought that I would just go with these few things here because these are things that I'm interested in. Yeah, I know someone's going to look and say, wait, the Nicole and Rob thing? Well, O.J. Simpson was a football hero of mine as a kid. I'm sorry to say that, but, he wasn't always just known as Crazy O.J., who may have killed somebody and whatever. O.J. Simpson used to be a big deal. So it's on there. And some of the other things you see on there as well are, kind of important to somebody. Most of it's American laden, but a couple of things there aren't American. So, little something for everybody. Anyway, what I'm talking about today has to do with blogging and the internet and decency. Because one of the things I don't list there is that in 1996, the Supreme Court struck down a law that Congress had passed that was called the Communications Decency Act. And it turns out to be very important for those of us who like to put content online. Because the law, for most of us, it probably wouldn't have made a difference. But for a lot of people, it made a big difference. Because basically what Congress was trying to do, they decided they needed to protect children. And there were no laws that governed anything online. For some of you who are rather young, you may not know this specifically, but the internet hasn't always been there. As a matter of fact, back in the 80s and 90s, basically we had bulletin board systems where we would pull up the computer and we would dial in and download messages and respond to things and then upload these messages. So it wasn't really until either 1992 or 1993 that a version of the internet as we know it now basically came out. So we didn't have this. And so no one knew what was going to happen with it, but eventually someone said, hey, what if people start putting porn or dirty pictures on there? How are we going to protect the children? They always talk about protecting the children. So anyway, they passed this law, and then immediately privacy people and people who advocate free speech basically argued against it. I probably would have argued against it also because I'm remembering what happened in the 80s where they really tried to put clamps down on certain types of music. So, I'm usually a free speech guy. I think people need to monitor themselves, but we'll get back to that. So anyway, the basic reasons that it got thrown out is they had this in the law. Part one, well, this is just this phrase. I'm just going to read it to you. Knowingly uses an interactive computer service to send to a specific person or persons under 18 years of age, or uses any interactive computer service to display in a manner available to a person under 18 years of age any comment, request, suggestion, proposal, image, or other communication that, in context, depicts or describes, in terms patently offensive as measured by contemporary community standards, sexual or excretory activities or organs. Now, that's a mouthful. And basically, it thought it could cover everything. It basically failed on the same principles that the indecency trials of the 70s failed when they were trying to ban things like deep throat and all these other kinds of things, is who is it that actually determines indecency and who determines what's pornography or not. That was one of the things that got it thrown out. Another thing that got thrown out, and it was basically this line here, that said indecency provisions were an unconstitutional abridgment of the First Amendment right to free speech because they did not permit parents to decide for themselves what material was acceptable for their children, extended to non-commercial speech, and did not define patently offensive, a term with no prior legal meaning. See, now, basically it said that parents should have the right to decide for their children what's decent and what's not. Basically, because of that, they threw out the entire law. So, where does that bring us today? What brings us today, a lot of things that probably some of us don't like, some of us are okay with, and some of it just, well, it is what it is. As someone who has never used a bad word in his life, and trust me, I've never said any curse word in my life. Not religious or anything, I just never have. Basically because I never wanted anyone to ever be offended in any kind of fashion by my use of improper language. I've always gone under the principle, if it's something that I wouldn't say or do in front of my parents, then I'm not going to do it for anybody else. Now, everyone doesn't have that thought. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people who pretty much say, well, I should be able to say anything I want to because it's me and this is how I am. I hear that mess and then I say, okay, so that means you talk like that in front of your parents. No. Oh, so you talk like that in front of your children. No. Okay. So at work, you'll use that kind of language towards, customers or toward the people you work with or work for. Oh, no. Oh, so you can censor yourself. You just decide not to. Okay, fine and dandy. Like I said, I'm not a prude. I don't necessarily mind seeing certain types of things. Heck, I'm the guy who wrote a post on cleavage. Although my point was something different than the images showed, but I still had a point. So basically, here's the thought. Are you really comfortable with basically certain types of indecency if you're the one who's creating it? Christy of Kikalani.com basically wrote a post last week, and her topic was offensive content on your blog. And she talked about how she used to forward a lot of things. She used to do a lot of retweeting of things that she saw. Then she started looking at some of it, and some of it she decided she really didn't want to be associated with. She didn't think it was right. And here she is sending things on to other people that might be somewhat offensive. I've been to other blogs where someone has written a comment saying, geez, I don't like the content that you have on there. I think it's offensive. Now, we all have the right to do whatever we want to do. I mean, when I wrote my post, I said, you know what, I've actually got a point here. Yes, I'm showing some images, but the images are helping me to make the point. Basically, if the law had passed through, there's novels that couldn't have been online. There's a lot of medical information. I don't know if you've read some of these things, but, there's some stuff out there that kind of makes you cringe and whatever. But that would have been considered, to at least to somebody, indecent. My goodness, sexual education in school is considered indecent by a whole lot of parents. But, kids are going to learn it somewhere. Wouldn't you rather them learn it in school than learn it on the street? So we talk about this concept of blogging and our websites and having the right to do whatever we want to do. Yes, I always support the right for people to do anything they want to do. But think about it in a couple of terms. One, are you ready to be associated with it for the rest of your life? Because once it's online, you know what? Once Google gets their hands on it, it usually only takes a day or two, it's on there. You can pull it all you want to, but it's on there. It's there for good. It could ruin you. It could at least cause you difficulties. There was a guy a couple years ago who had a blog, and he would put a lot of videos on it. He was cussing up a storm, whatever. He was having a good time. And then one day it was gone. His videos were gone. The website was gone. Someone found out later on the reason he pulled it is because this is a guy who was making $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and some of his clients suddenly found it, found his blog, saw his videos, didn't like it, didn't want to be associated with it, canceled contracts. So this guy found, hey, geez, I'm losing hundreds of thousands of dollars all of a sudden by people who are upset because of content I put online. Let me pull this. Now, I don't know if he ever got any of those clients back, but it's a really important lesson. People put things on Facebook and then wonder how come they don't get jobs. And they're saying, well, this is protected. This is my freedom of speech. I should be able to do what I want to. Definitely. Do whatever you want to do. But if there's consequences you don't like, don't complain about it because you asked for it. So all I'm saying today is that, yes, in 1996, we all got the right to pretty much do whatever we wanted to do online with certain restrictions, because there are still restrictions. There's just certain things you really still can't do and shouldn't do. I'll just say that. I'm not going to say what they are. I'm just going to say you all know what it is. So, yes, you can do anything you want to, but be a little circumspect with what it is that you're doing. Think about it before you have it on there. Go with what I said. If you wouldn't want your parents seeing it, and you wouldn't want your children seeing it, and you wouldn't want the people that you work with seeing it, don't put it on there. Don't say it. Don't do it. That's my point. Hope y'all have a good day.